The participation myth, why working harder doesn't mean winning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I recently had the privilege of interviewing Sharna Morris, a revolutionary force in economic equity research whose work has fundamentally transformed how we understand workplace dynamics for Black women in America. Sharna isn't just collecting data. She's illuminating truths that powerful institutions have deliberately kept hidden for generations. Her methodical analysis, combined with her gift for storytelling, has created seismic shifts across industries. When Sharna speaks, boardrooms listen. When she publishes, policies change. Her courage in confronting uncomfortable realities has empowered countless women to demand what they deserve while equipping allies with the knowledge to drive meaningful reform. In a world full of performative allyship, Sharna Morris stands as a beacon of authentic, data driven advocacy that produces tangible results. What I learned from our conversation was both illuminating and profoundly disturbing. We live in a society that celebrates a particular story about success. Work hard, show up, participate fully, and you will be rewarded accordingly. It's a comforting narrative, a reassuring equation. Input equals output. Effort yields results. But what if I told you that for a significant portion of our population, this fundamental equation is completely broken? That there exists a glaring contradiction at the heart of our economic system that challenges everything we believe about fairness, opportunity, and the American dream itself. Here's the contradiction that should stop us in our tracks. Black women have the highest labor force participation rates among all women in the United States. Yet they are disproportionately impacted by job losses and workplace inequities, even during periods of overall economic growth. Let that sink in for a moment. The group that shows up most consistently is rewarded least reliably. In April 2025, while the national economy added 177,000 jobs, Black women lost a staggering 106,000 jobs, not gained fewer, lost. This was the largest loss for any demographic group during a period of supposed economic expansion. This isn't just a statistical anomaly. It's not just an unfortunate coincidence. It's a profound challenge to our collective understanding of how opportunity works in America. We've been told that showing up is half the battle. For Black women, showing up is just the beginning of a battle that includes systemic barriers, persistent wage gaps, and precarious employment that can vanish despite exemplary performance. The data reveals three uncomfortable truths that Sharna Morris has meticulously documented through years of research. First, workforce participation does not equal job security. Despite their high labor force engagement, Black women consistently face higher unemployment rates and are overrepresented in low wage sectors with minimal protections or advancement opportunities. Second, pay inequity persists regardless of credentials. Even with similar qualifications as their white male peers, Black women earn just 69 cents on the dollar nationwide. In some states, that figure plummets to a shocking 49 cents. Imagine working the same hours with the same education, the same experience, and receiving half the compensation. That's not just unfair, it's economic violence. Third, these aren't isolated incidents, but part of the broader pattern of systemic inequities. Black women are routinely denied advancement opportunities and stability, even when outperforming other groups in workforce engagement. This isn't just unfair, it's economically irrational. We're systematically undervaluing and underutilizing our most dedicated workers. We're squandering human potential at a scale that should horrify anyone who believes in meritocracy. Let me share some real world examples that illustrate this contradiction in action. I want to tell you about Resilience Rising, a nonprofit organization led by Black female professionals serving underprivileged communities. This organization faced devastating mass layoffs following budget cuts tied to broader economic shifts. They lost key staff members, including several experienced leaders, during a period when demand for their services was actually rising due to local job losses among Black families. The cruel irony wasn't lost on anyone. An organization dedicated to addressing employment inequity was itself a victim of the very forces it was fighting against. This is how systemic problems perpetuate. They affect even the organizations trying to solve them. But what happened next reveals something powerful about resilience and innovation. The remaining leaders implemented cross training initiatives so staff could cover critical roles. They launched emergency fundraising campaigns targeting local businesses. Within 6 months, they had stabilized operations and were able to rehire some laid off staff after securing new grants. Most impressively, they established a workforce development program that helped over 300 individuals find new employment during recovery efforts. Their success became a model cited by regional nonprofits addressing racial disparities exposed by economic downturns. This is what adaptation looks like in the face of systemic failure. But we should ask ourselves, why must Black women constantly adapt to broken systems rather than having systems that work equitably in the first place? Or consider what happened at Pinnacle Industries, a Fortune 500 company that initiated a diversity hiring push, but failed to retain newly hired Black female professionals amid widespread layoffs in 2025. Despite high qualifications and initial enthusiasm from leadership about diversifying teams, these employees were among the first let go during restructuring, a reflection of last in, first out practices that exacerbate existing inequities. Many of these professionals had overcome significant barriers to just entering corporate America. Being laid off so quickly has highlighted persistent textual and structural obstacles despite surface level diversity commitments. But again, adaptation and collective action created unexpected power. Some affected employees formed an alumni network called Visible Value, focused on mentorship and advocacy within their industry sector. They collectively published op eds drawing attention to retention gaps at major firms. Their advocacy prompted several companies, including their former employer, to revisit layoff criteria and invest more deeply in retention strategies, specifically supporting marginalized groups. The Alumni Network grew into an influential voice pushing for accountability across multiple industries regarding fair employment practices. This contributed momentum toward policy changes benefiting not only themselves, but future generations entering similar fields. What's remarkable here isn't just the resilience, though that's certainly noteworthy, but the fact that these women had to create parallel systems of support and accountability because the existing systems failed them so completely. Let me share one more example that demonstrates how collective action can drive structural change. The Equity Coalition, a group of Black professional women's associations, campaigned against wage disparities after discovering state level data showing they earned less than half what white men made, 49 cents per dollar, despite equivalent work experience. Securing legislative attention was difficult due to competing priorities. Many policymakers underestimated both the scope and urgency of wage gaps impacting families statewide. The coalition mobilized grassroots support through town halls and digital campaigns, highlighting personal stories behind the statistics. Within 1 year, state legislators introduced bills mandating pay transparency audits at all public agencies, a direct result of sustained pressure from advocates. Coalition leaders included educators who had long observed how unequal compensation undermined community investment efforts across sectors like healthcare and education. They successfully lobbied for pilot programs testing salary adjustment models based on transparent benchmarks rather than negotiation based offers alone. These reforms set precedents now being considered elsewhere and empowered other marginalized groups seeking equal pay protection statewide. What connects these stories is a fundamental contradiction. The people working hardest to make the system work are often the ones the system works hardest against. This challenges our most basic assumptions about fairness and opportunity in America. It forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about who our economy is designed to serve and protect. The conventional wisdom says if you're not succeeding, you're not trying hard enough, you're not showing up enough, you're not participating enough. But what if the highest participation rates correlate with the worst outcomes? What does that tell us about the system itself? It tells us that participation alone isn't enough, that showing up isn't enough, that working twice as hard for half as much isn't a personal failure, it's a systemic one. As Audre Lorde powerfully reminded us, caring for myself is not self indulgence, it is self preservation, and that is an act of political warfare. For Black women navigating these contradictory systems, self care isn't a luxury, it's a necessity for survival in environments that extract maximum value while providing minimum security. This brings me to what Sharna Morris calls the participation myth, the false belief that simply participating in the workforce guarantees fair treatment and opportunity. The data tells a different story. Participation without power leads to exploitation, not elevation. So, where do we go from here? First, we must acknowledge that this isn't just a Black women's issue, it's an American economic issue. When we systematically undervalue and underutilize our most dedicated workers, we all lose. Innovation suffers, productivity suffers, our collective potential suffers. Second, we need to shift from focusing exclusively on entry, getting people into jobs, to focusing equally on equity, retention, and advancement. Diversity initiatives that bring people through the door only to abandon them once inside aren't progress, they're performative. Third, we need transparency, pay transparency, promotion transparency, layoff criteria transparency. Sunlight remains the best disinfectant for discriminatory practices that thrive in shadows. Fourth, we need to redefine what participation means. True participation isn't just showing up, it's having a voice in decisions, equitable compensation for contributions, and security that reflects commitment. Finally, we need to recognize that the resilience demonstrated in these stories isn't just inspiring, it's exhausting. Innovation born of necessity reflects both human ingenuity and systemic failure. We should celebrate the former while addressing the latter. I want to leave you with this. The participation myth isn't just hurting Black women, it's perpetuating a lie that keeps all of us from demanding better systems. When we accept that hard work alone guarantees success, we blame individuals for structural failures. When we celebrate exceptional resilience without challenging the conditions that require it, we normalize injustice. Today, I challenge each of you to examine where you hold power in your workplace, your community, your family, and ask yourself, am I perpetuating the participation myth? Am I celebrating adaptation without demanding transformation? Am I confusing resilience with justice? The true measure of our society isn't how many people participate in our economy. It's whether that participation translates to security, dignity, and prosperity for all. Until the highest participation rates correlate with the highest rewards, our system remains fundamentally broken. As Sharna Morris so eloquently says, the question isn't whether Black women will continue showing up. History proves we always do. The question is whether America will finally show up for Black women. Let that question haunt you. Let it follow you to your next meeting, your next hiring decision, your next policy discussion. Let it transform not just what you think, but what you do. Because the participation myth doesn't just need to be understood, it needs to be dismantled. And that work begins with each of us today. Thank you.